People don't understand what sustainability really means. It's a hard thing for people to truly understand, and Singaporeans are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. We don't think about it, we don't care about it so much. I think there are people that care about it, and I really respect that. But I think majority don't really completely understand food security and food safety. Given the fact that there's already been so much of radiation that's been added to the waters, big nuclear factories just breaking down and dripping their radiation into the water, obviously the quality of what you're going to be receiving out of these waters is going to definitely be affected.
Food security is a very big issue in Singapore. We have been hoping that we can do a small part to supply back into our own local market. Selling to the restaurants is one of the channels that we decided to showcase. And of course, restaurants that have been taking from us has been doing a very good job by promoting us as a local produce.
The produce that we're getting is a really good quality. It's fresher. I think there are a lot of people actually that would be so surprised as to the quality of certain ingredients that we are currently getting and using already. It's very important for us to work with locally sourced farmers. Singapore is not very well known for this. We want to make sure that we have a strong sustainability movement in Singapore with the farmers that we have and showcase the produce that they bring in.
The way we think of sustainability is really about thinking of the longevity of our food source, making sure that we can grow food for generations after our current generation. We grow a lot of our produce indoors as well. So for instance, we grow our microgreens indoors. We still actually use traditional methods. So we just use seed, soil and water. But the reason why we grow them indoors is so that they're protected from the environment and from the pests. And also we can control the temperature and the conditions in the room so that everything can grow more productively.
We want to do an eco-farming method, which means we do not use any kind of power generator, so our farm is entirely solar powered. The main purpose of this solar energy is to power our fridges, our lights, and some of the washing equipment. Why we chose to do this is because we feel that we should make use of the solar energy that we have, converting this entire old traditional farming method into a more eco-friendly, where we do not use diesel to power the daily needs. Besides this, we do feeding for the fishes. Any fish guts from the process of gutting the fish, we will actually feed them back. It's a non-wastage kind of process.
In Singapore, we actually don't have that much space. Yet, we need to grow a lot of food to sustain ourselves and to make sure there's enough nutrition for Singaporeans. So one way that we could do that is to really stack up our grow spaces. For our hydroponic container, we have about 5 or 6 stories of vegetables. We took reefer containers which are insulated along the sides. We fit them with a hydroponic growing system. We grow kale and lettuce. So how it works is water filled with nutrition runs through the system, and the kale with their roots will pick up the nutrition. We start by seeding into sponge And once that has grown roots, we put them into these pots and put them into the system. So these are really young. They've just been germinated, just formed roots, so probably like a couple of weeks old. So we typically harvest maybe about 7 to 9 weeks. These are almost there. A couple more weeks and they'll be ready. So this is really different from kale that you usually get from the supermarket. Those are really thick, really stemmy. The reason is they have to be harvested later so that they can survive the long journey from the farm overseas to your supermarket shelf. But what we do here is we harvest young, they're more tender, they're more nutritious, and definitely a lot tastier.
When we do the harvesting in the morning, is the best time because of the weather. Still cooler, the fishes are still not so active. We do the selection of the sizes that we require. Then we start to do the other half of the processing where we start to do bleeding of the fish, where we cut the throat. We can also do the Japanese way where we cut the tail. So a lot of bigger farmers, they don't do that because that requires a lot of time. What others do is they do the suffocation way, where they will put the fish in the cold bath and they basically stun the fish. But that process doesn't keep the quality of the meat because the warm blood are still in the body. Our practice is from gutting to the fishes arrive at the restaurants are usually within 2 to 3 hours.
So I think one reason why Singaporeans may be reluctant to try local produce is that they perceive the local produce as maybe not as good as imported produce. So for instance, although we have fish farms, they still perceive tuna from Japan as tastier or fresher than Singapore produce. Although the fish that you can get from a local farm in Singapore is caught right there and then it arrives on your plate swimming. They don't realize that the potential of farming in Singapore is actually so vast.
I think that one looks prettier. They're both like an entire fish and I don't know how I'm gonna tackle that.
This one does look aesthetically appealing. You put all the flowers, right? It's very like chewy, but I find the fish taste very strong.
It tastes quite fresh to me, like the texture of the flesh is flaky.
I think this one tastes fresher though.
I feel this one tastes fresher and the flesh is sweeter, like there's a nicer flavor to it.
Actually, I would expect the locally produced one to be more expensive, like for some reason. Imported sauces produced in bulk, to me, that's what I assume.
For me, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go for that one because it's cheaper and it's locally sourced. Definitely, if you could have a plate full of food that's locally sourced, that's definitely better in terms of like carbon footprint and for the environment. And in this case, it tastes better also to me.
When it comes to eating out like at restaurants, then it's a bit hard to know whether or not the restaurant's food is locally sourced or sustainably sourced.
Possibly you could check with the chef, like, is there anything on the menu that's like locally produced? And if they have not accounted for that, like by more people asking that question, maybe that change can happen.
When you have to bring the food in and there's so many levels to this that your produce sometimes gets the least amount of attention where it should be the most amount of attention given to it. I can call somebody up and say, hey man, I'm looking for these heirloom baby carrots, and within a week I can get them. But the amount of time that it takes for that to come to Singapore is insane. The order has to go into a farm somewhere in France. The farmers there have to then find these carrots, harvest them, clean them up, cut them to the same size, package them, send it to Rungis, which is a distributor in France. They fly to Singapore, land in Singapore Customs, they have to clear AVA inspections and then get sent to the supplier, and the supplier then sends it to us. All of this is unnecessary work. We have 1 million businessmen, 1 million businesswomen, barely any farmers. It's hard to say, hey, banker, quit your job, come and work in a farm for half a day. We're a money-making industry, right? So who are farmers really?
I was in a banking line, realized that this is not the kind of job that I want to do because the passion isn't there, so started to go into fish farming. What I like most of this job is, of course, the sea breeze and everything. You basically get away from everyone.
So I used to work in an office, behind a desk, in the aircon, and I just felt really restricted. Like I couldn't see the sun, I couldn't see when it was day or night. And so after working in an office for 5 years, I thought, hey, I really want to go outside, I want to work with my hands, I want to get dirty. My parents, they weren't really happy that I left my corporate job to be a farmer. I took a pay cut and I came back with mosquito bites. So it took a while to convince them. Although I gave up this path, I'm actually a lot happier. How we can bridge the gap and get more Singaporeans interested in local produce would be really to start educating our kids from young. Kids can be taught how to grow food, like gardening, so that they have really good appreciation of food and how it's grown. And we feel that that would have a great trickle-down effect and they would waste less food as well.
Look out for local produce. Farms that you know. It takes time for sure, I'm not expecting everybody to pull up their phone and Google where this place is or where this farm comes from. But this helps you know where your produce comes from a little bit. Maybe then you work with farmers that are more local, start finding out more information about people who already are farming in Singapore and try to support that.
So we supply 60 to 70 restaurants a week, and the remainder of the produce we actually supply to families through a subscription vegetable program that we call Citizen Box. We started out the Citizen Box program in January 2018, and at that time, the bulk of our customers were actually expats. So about 60% were expats, the rest were Singaporean families. But in the course of about one and a half years, we have found that the number of locals is actually increasing. In terms of reaching 30 by 30, we can't just rely on the local farmers to achieve that. We need to get all Singaporeans supporting, get them to buy local, to grow their own food. It's small efforts like these that will really help us achieve food resilience and not just relying on the agriculture industry.